The price was $10,000. I felt like Django trying to buy back Broomhilda.
Dynasty the King.
Welcome to the Dynasty Exchange. It's your main man, Michael Smith. You already know me. I'd like to introduce you to three of my closest friends. Feels like I've known them my whole life. I've known these dudes for less than a year. Pretty soon, you will feel the same way. They will be your friends as well. I'm talking about Davis Nuemi, Dylan Egloff, and Josh Walsh. They are the Dynasty Exchange. This is our pilot episode. And I feel like the way to start this, fellas, is to tell everybody how this relationship began, how this friendship began. So, I'm working Thursday Night Football for Amazon Prime Video this season. And we're in Seattle late in the season. And my redraft team is kicking ass. So I'm in a good mood. I'm in a great mood. Okay. And so I got this driver who's taking me to the Seahawks facility to go meet with Pete Carroll and John Schneider. And I'm just making conversation. He's playing it real cool, real professional, got the shades on, not saying a word. I'm in the front seat. It's just me and him. And I turn to him. I say, hey, my man, is there anything better than when your fantasy team is just tight? Like you don't have any moves you need to make. Everybody's healthy. You're rolling. You're looking good. And he's not saying a word. He's chilling. He ain't saying a thing. And I'm like, okay. This dude's professional. I was like, come on, man. Like, you play fantasy or what? He's like, yeah, I play a little bit. I was like, let me tell you, man, I'm the transaction king. And he says, Mr. Smith, you got nothing on me. And so we get to talking. And Josh tells me about this league full of people that I wanted to be among. He tells me about the Jerry Jones Yacht Club. And he tells me that they have their own internal podcasts and a website and a charter, a league charter. And I'm like, oh my God, this is my kind of league. How do I get in this league? And so he gets his friends on the phone. None of them believe it's really me. None of them believe that I'm really interested in joining that league.
Man.
And so they get on the phone with one of the owners. His name is Basil. And I say, Basil, I'll buy your team. And he says, okay, for $10,000. I'm like, you got to be crazy. $10,000.
The trash team, too.
Worst team in the league at the time. Yeah.
Worst team in the league at the time. And to make a long story short, so you can hear from these guys and enough from me, make a long story short, after at times contentious, complicated, drawn out expansion process, they went from 12 teams to 14 teams, brought me in, and now I see why the price was $10,000. It is priceless to be a part of Jerry Jones Yacht Club. And I said to Davis, Dylan, and Josh, yo, you guys, y'all could do a podcast because these fellas, they know what they're talking about. They're passionate. They're funny. They're good dudes. And they're hardcore. They're just like me. So fellas, congratulations. Welcome to the Inflection Network. Welcome to your podcast, The Dynasty Exchange. Josh, you want to lead off and say something?
No, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, I think it's a rare chance when you're just a pure fantasy player. I mean, none of us were in sports media. I was driving as a side hustle. I do real estate full time. It's such a privilege when you find out that the people who represent sports media are as hardcore as you are. Because when you got in the front seat and you were talking about your team, the first thought I had was like, this guy's casual. He's going to tell me he drafted on ESPN and he got like the 12 spots. Like, hey, Travis Kelce's going off. But instead you were talking about, I think it was Malik Davis. And that was where we connected is you're like, oh yeah, there's this guy, Malik Davis. I'm like, oh yeah, I picked him up too. And I think right away realizing that you weren't just passionate, but you were a culture fit and you were just like one of us. I know Davis and Dylan.
One of us. One of us.
Exactly. No, exactly. And I just commend your curiosity because the league is lucky to have you. If we never had a show, every decision we make is what is best for the league. And my first call right away, the one person who I knew would do the research, would make sure that it was even mathematically feasible to join the league was my co-commish, my secretary, my right-hand man, but biggest rival, Mr. Davis Nuemi. I called him right away. And Davis, did you even believe me? Like I was in such shock that Mike was actually trying to get into our league. I don't remember the hullabaloo, but I feel like it took some convincing to get you to believe that it was real as well.
Man, yeah, the second that he stepped in the call. The second I heard his voice, I was like, oh, this is Mike Smith. I was in a meeting, and then I took the call because I was seeing Josh's text like, hey, man, like Mike Smith wants to join our league. I'm like, man, get out of here. Like, please, like, come on now. But no, it really was. I was like, oh, my gosh. OK, so the guy that I grew up watching on Around the Horn. Like, hey,
that's what I went to.
I definitely Around the Horn. I came home 6th, 7th, grade, and I would watch him kind of killed on that show. But I was like, okay, Mike wants to join the league, and then we started talking, and then we started to really like, okay, he's actually serious about this. So then Basil, who's like my brother-in-law, I was like, hey man, sell him your team. Let's get Mike in here. But then I started to, right? Hey, he's terrible.
It was a bad time. It was a bad time for Basil at that particular moment. Yeah.
But the love and the affinity for Mike and myself really came when it came down to the 101. He had Bijan Robinson, and that was something that I coveted, right? And so I talked to Mike probably for a month every single day. And I got to see this guy's passion, his commitment to fantasy football, his obsession, to say it plainly. And that's something that resonated with me because I'm the guy that's calling people every single day. I'm the guy I'm doing it while I'm working. I'm committed to it. Right. So just to see somebody who was fully in and was fully bought into who we are and what we're doing. I mean, I could not have thought of a better fit.
We became fast friends. We were kindred spirits. You're right. Like as part of the expansion process, I got the 101 to kind of help me build my Dynasty franchise. And Davis would not rest and would not let me rest
Called him every
until
day.
he got the 101. But that just goes to show like how much I talk to these. It hasn't stopped. I talk to Davis, Dylan, and Josh every day at some point, whether it's text or over the phone. I even know that Wednesday nights are bad for Dylan because that's date night. That's the only thing that gets in the way of fantasy. Is date night for Dylan, right, Dylan?
Yeah. My wife will love it. Absolutely. Yep. She respects it. She appreciates it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Even this past Sunday, I'm walking out of church and Mike calls me and she goes, "It's Mike, isn't it?" I'm like,
My wife knows y'all numbers. When she sees y'all numbers pop up, she's like, "Is that Davis again?" She's like, I thought fantasy was just like in the fall. Why are you talking fantasy in March? I'm like, babe, it's Dynasty. So the other part, I didn't say this off the top. This is my first time playing Dynasty the 2023 season. I had always played redraft. I'd always wanted to be in Dynasty because I never really I never found a group of guys like y'all. I never found somebody as hardcore as me that was willing to set up the infrastructure and do the work to set up a Dynasty league and was into it year round like that. So when I found you guys, it was like, well, y'all been on my life. But Dylan, back to you though. Let me ask you this, man. Like, why do you think, because it seems like, and maybe it's just because I'm new to it, so I'm just noticing it. Why do you think that Dynasty seems to have taken off and is much more popular? It seems like I see a lot of best ball, I see a lot of Dynasty and less redraft. Why is Dynasty so popular nowadays?
There's a lot of degenerates out there. Let's just say that. Let's start with
all four of us.
It's true. Right? It's true.
Yes, 100%. No, but I think in reality, if you ever played franchise mode on Madden, right? Most people love playing franchise mode on Madden, right? Loved it. That's pretty much all I played, right? And this is the opportunity to do that and to draft a team and to build a team and to be the GM of a team year round. And so something about that and being able to have nonstop fantasy and have a reason to be checking in on the latest tweet or whatever this beat writer's saying or where this person's going or that person's going. I think you just can't beat the year round ability to be a degenerate and dive into football. It gives you an excuse to do it no matter when. Yeah.
Hey, I want people to understand because, again, I mentioned this started with me begging to get into Jerry Jones's Yacht Club. I told our origin story, the four of us, our relationship in this podcast. But Josh and then Davis, give the people a quick backstory on Jerry Jones's Yacht Club and the mission and the vision behind what we believe is the greatest dynasty league in America, if not the world.
No, it is. I mean, no one's branded that. No one's tried to take the title, and we're going to hold it until someone challenges us. And the great news is if someone tries to challenge us, it's just going to motivate us to innovate and become that much better. Jerry Jones Yacht Club was born out of a redraft league called Fantasy is Reality that had been started by a bunch of guys that went to high school together gosh, I think back in 2007, 2008, I was added as an expansion team to that in like 2016. So there's like long lasting relationships that have permeated into the league. And we started this in 2019 going into the 2020 season. And my goal is like, hey guys, this is an experimental league, but I really think Dynasty is the only way for us to really feel like GMs. Because what happens in redraft is you can just absolutely swing for the fences, completely, trade away all your players and just go for it week to week. And there's no consequence. Whereas in Dynasty, you have to kind of wake up with the decision you made last night or last week or last month.
Feel the impact.
And exactly. And so, in the first year, it was really kind of new. We were all treating it kind of like redraft. And really, it was my relationship with Davis, who was constantly pointing out ways we could be better, ways I was failing as a commissioner. He goes, where's the written rule for this? Like, we have a league contract that I update every single year that's at least 5,000 words that goes over every clause of every rule not covered in Sleeper, all because Davis was like, well, why can't I do this? And why can't I do this?
And then can I point out the reason why is because I'm the type of dude that if there's not something in place, I'm going to find every loophole. I'm going to take advantage of every single thing and find every way to gain an edge. So I'm trying to help everybody else out by doing that, mind you.
Absolutely. No, and here's what I'll say is it created innovation. You can get annoyed or you can realize this is exactly what Roger Goodell is dealing with when, hey, the Patriots, when they recorded practices, was there exactly a written rule? It adds to that experience. Allegedly. Allegedly. Fair enough. But the drama that you get from having to play year round, it's not just about what happens on Sunday. It's about how each owner and each person is leading their franchise. And this is a sentimental note. The thing I love most about Dynasty, it gives me an excuse to stay in touch with friends I care about year round. Because dudes, we don't call each other just be like, hey man, how's the wife and kids? I'm calling Dylan because I want Antonio Gibson for a second, by the way. That's a real offer, Dylan, if you want to stew that over. But in terms of the vision, it was to make it the greatest league in the world and to make it feel like you are an actual NFL franchise owner. And Davis, to your credit, and I would pass you, there's still things we talk about we need to improve, we need to grow on because the journey's never done. We're wanting to constantly update it.
Yeah, and I think a part of the first evolution of our league is the expansion. Like that was the big test. Okay, is this league going to actually make it through the expansion? I mean,
oh my God.
There was so many points of contention. No, hey, people.
Wait, and what did I say? I said, you know what, man? I didn't mean to break up y'all happy home. If y'all gonna be at each other's throats, don't worry about it. Josh was like, we'll start another Dynasty League. We'll start another one. Yeah. That was a tough stretch right there.
From the people that had like the most interaction to the people that, they'll kind of be there for 8 months out of the year and then they'll disappear in like the off season. They all felt personal to that. They all had an opinion, but we started to expand, right? We invited 2 owners, having like Michael Smith being one of them. And honestly, I couldn't think of a better thing that could have happened to the league, right?
Totally.
So I feel like for like dynasty leagues, you always have to be open to change. You have to be open to, okay, what are the rules and the things that are going to create for our league to be the most dynamic, right? So for us, that expansion took us to another level. You saw the engagement drive up. You saw people really have this investment of like, okay, now we have a shark here, right? Like, so we have somebody who's in the know, somebody who's coming in and talking about how he's in the finals of a 16 or 20 team. I don't remember what it was, but it's like, okay, so we got Mike Smith in here. All right. I'm going to do whatever I can to embarrass Mike Smith, right? Because I'm taking pride in that as a dynasty player.
That's fair.
Absolutely.
I'll be the hunted. I'll be the hunted. It's all good because I definitely want to get into y'all characters. Dylan, I'm coming to you in a second. But everything y'all just described only made me want to be in it more. Like the more people resisted change, the more we argued over how many guys got protected, the more we argued over how many times each team could get hit, the more we argued over whether or not the 2 expansion teams would get the 101 and 102. It just was like, what I told you, Josh, I was like, hey, I don't want no handouts. I don't want no favors. I was like, I'm going to do this the hard way. I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door and I'll get it myself. Shout out to James Brown.
Hold up a second. But then he'd be like, I thought about it. And I thought about
because y'all was trying y'all was trying to protect like 15 dudes. Like I was like, there was nobody in the draft.
We one day in the future we should do an episode on expansion drafts. That's like an off-season episode. But for people thinking, when Mike came in, obviously there's this celebrity status. We were all excited, but all the guys in the league were like, okay, cool, it's Mike Smith, but this can't negatively affect my team. It took us a month and a half to agree to get him in the league because these are serious players. We're serious players. Like, it's cool that Mike was coming, but you had to be a culture fit, and you slid the slider of difficulty all the way up because we gave you beans to start with, man. Like, everyone was like, here's my 14th best player, and here's a draft pick.
I know.
Good luck.
All right, so listen, I want people to know who they're going to be tuning into twice a week. I mean, this podcast, the plan is to record Monday to be released Tuesday morning, Thursday night to be released Friday morning. We're not messing around. And again, that's what attracted me to these guys, is because I saw myself in them, that they are obsessed, they are hardcore. But let's get some scouting reports because people need to understand who they're going to be subscribing to, who they're going to be liking, who they're going to be commenting to, who they're going to be following on social media, and who they're going to be listening to, because we're going to give people some advice as well. Dylan, start with you. How would you describe yourself as a dynasty manager?
Myself, I like to say that I'm a little bit patient aggressive. And I know that's an oxymoron, but I like to be patient when I make these moves, but I like to be aggressive when I need to. And so if there's a
I think you're an overthinker. I mean, I'm just saying, I think that's an overthinker.
Patiently aggressive describes why your franchise is where it's at. That's all I have to say.
Oh, my Lord.
Wow. Listen, I get asked to say who I think I am as a dynasty player, and then I get absolutely
joking.
Dylan, I'm just saying, I've never seen somebody talk themselves out of deals more than you, Dylan. I'm just saying. I love you for it.
100%. How many times have we had discussions weeks on end, and I'm like, you know what? I can see that happening. You know what, man? I don't know, but maybe I can see that happen.
But you are my favorite trade partner, Dylan. Why
how many deals have we gotten done?
The most of anybody in the league. Why do you think
over 50? Last time I checked, it was over 50.
Between me and Dylan, just off season?
Yeah, I checked. Oh yeah.
It's really over 50? Okay, that's ridiculous. And that's just you. That's just you. How many trades have I made with everybody? Oh my God. Why do we click so much, Dylan?
What was that?
Why do we click so much as trade partners?
I mean, we talk about it all the time. We get each other. We know we're intentional about knowing what each other want. We don't come at each other with some BS offers that we know we're not going to take. We know the guys that we're interested in. You always probe me with the Bryce Ford, even if it's like Bryce Ford Wheaton or like these guys that like no one cares about. You know, those are my guys, and we'll get to it later. But I'm a scout guy. I like my guys that I like, especially from college on. That's how I got Ramondre Stevenson. I hit on those kind of guys. Like, you just gotta like your guys. So you know what I like. I know what you like, and we typically get it off. But I understand where you think I'm an overthinker. I absolutely am.
In a good way.
That's why in a good way. But yeah, no, I would say I do overthink a little bit, but I do like to be aggressive, and I'm an FTP player. F them picks. I do not care about them. I want to win the best that I can.
Yeah, you are.
You'll have it first, and then it'll be gone the next day. But you also put them to good use. Hey, man, but you put them to good use.
That money burns a hole in his pocket. But I will say this, man. Like, Dylan, you know your stuff. You mentioned the scouting part. A regular staple of this show is going to be Dylan's Debbie Deep Dive, where Dylan is going to not only prep you, he's going to prep you really for the college football weekend, because a big part of Dynasty is the long-term view, whether it's the 24 draft or the 25 draft, which typically, how far people go out when it comes to trading picks. Some people are taking for 24. Some people, like Josh in Yacht Club, is taking for 25. But it's just like so Dylan is your guy. Davis, meanwhile, and you alluded to it earlier, Davis, looking for every loophole. That's putting it kindly. I learned something about Davis. Dylan and Josh, I was talking to Davis the other day, like one of the 5 times a day we talked. And I'll let him tell a story about he holds the record for technical fouls in his conference and fouled out with like 7 fouls. I don't know where they would keep it, 6 or 7 fouls, whatever it was. It might have been 7 in like a matter of minutes. And that to me illustrates the type of fantasy player that Davis is. Davis wears the black hat. He is the guy that everybody in the league loves to hate, probably because his team is ridiculous. I don't know how y'all let this dude get this team. His team is ridiculous, but he will leave no stone unturned. He is relentless. He is cutthroat. He's a good guy, but the fantasy play, he's a dude, like, you want him on your team, but you hate playing against him.
You
like he's
hate
a
playing
great
against
human
him,
being.
yeah.
But as a fantasy dude, everybody hates you, Davis. But I love you. Everybody hates Davis.
He is evil.
He is Bane. He is necessary evil. Go ahead, Davis. Describe yourself.
No, so yeah, and what like people? I mean, people really start to hate me to the point of where I think they think that I'm a bad person when I'm in these like negotiations. I mean, I think there was a point where like Mike and I really had a falling out for about 24 hours, where it's like, all right, Mike is done with me. He said we have closed our business.
Okay,
Mike called me so pissed off at you, bro.
Twice.
Okay.
Twice this has happened to me.
Quick story.
Yeah.
Quick story. We were working on the aforementioned Basil, Davis's brother-in-law. Me, Davis, and Basil are working on a 3-way trade. We were at a stalemate. I am trying to negotiate, like mediate between brothers-in-law. I'm mediating between Basil and Davis. So I'm going back and forth trying to get them to kind of like come closer so we can make this deal happen. Blockbuster 3-way trade. I'm on the phone with Davis, telling him like, yeah, man, I'm not sure what else I could think of. Like I'm pouring out my heart to him, and I'm like, and he's like, yeah. Call comes in. It's Basil on the other line. Mind you, I'm on the phone with Davis. Basil says, hey, Mike, Davis just sent me an offer. I gotta take it. I'm like, are you serious? I said, Davis, never again. I'm never trading with you again, Davis. Ever.
Yeah.
He made a trade offer while I'm on the phone with him to the guy we were negotiating with. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Here's something that I do want to talk about, and there is something to that. There are specific owners in leagues. There are people that you're going to play with that you have to catch them at the right time. You have a Dylan Egloff who he's going to think in detail about it. So if he's at a place where he's willing to accept, or Basil Cantu's at a place where he's willing to accept, you got to get the deal done then. You cannot wait. So, Michael, you and I have had these conversations. Hold on a second. You and I have had these conversations where it's like, okay, the art of the deal, the business relationship, us respecting one another. At least call me. Look, if the deal is there, I'm going to go get it done. And that, I think, is what will define me, is that I will respect people, but I don't want you guys or my relationship personally to hold me back from winning these championships.
I'm giving the suspect eyes to I will respect people. Massive suspect eyes.
Davis, as I told you, I don't have an issue with you getting a deal done. The issue was that could you at least just hang up the phone with me first and then get the deal done?
Mike,
that's all I want to say.
But that sounds, and all due respect, and this is what I told you, that sounds like a you problem, because it's not like we didn't have that conversation like, hey, this deal is not going to get done. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm moving on. And I was talking to my friend, Michael Smith.
You could move on. But could you not, like, why did you have to Allen Iverson over Tyronn Lue? Why did you have to step over my dead body? Why couldn't you just wait until we hung up the phone to execute the trade? You are relentless. And I love you for it.
Yeah. And that is where I would say myself and then a Josh Walsh differ, because Josh Walsh is very by the book and he is a numbers guy. He is going to respect you when he's doing business with you. Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are the best commissioner that there is in Dynasty football.
I am going to clip. If we could just clip that and save that, I would have to do the show.
Delete.
That's the first time I've heard him say something nice about you.
Ever.
I have never heard him say something nice about you like that.
First and foremost, just speaking to the characters that we are, I have told Davis privately, would you please consider a career in sales? Because this dude will hit me up in the morning with a template. It's a text template. He sends the same text to every member in the league to try to get a market on what he could sell his player for. So the first person that responds, he then goes to person 2 and says, person 1 told me I could get this plus this. So obviously it's got to be more from you. I'm about to accept the deal. It's diabolical and I love him for it. It's fantastic. Josh,
let me jump in. Josh, let me jump in real quick before you go. That's why this is a good time to introduce Davis's alter ego. Not really his alter ego, but this is why Davis is the value king. This is why he gets 99s on Keep Trade Cut. He is all about value. I will overpay, which we'll get to that term in a minute. I will overpay for something I want. Davis is all about value and winning trades, and it works for him. Walsh, back to you.
Yeah, no. So for me, I actually love the approach of always be willing to get the deal. Like there's every player's on the trade block for me. I don't have to post them. You can always buy a player for me, but I'm going to be honest with you about
Except
how I
George
view that
Pickens.
player. No, you can come get him. You can come get him.
What's
Trade
the
me
price?
Justin Fields, your firstborn child.
Sounds about right.
No, I think the way I like to play is I'm a big fan of repeat business. And there are certain owners in this league that because I have done good business, and what I mean by good business is I just don't send a super low ball offer. We have a guy in our league named Sonny D, good friend of mine. He intentionally, if certain people will text him, he'll just auto ignore it. He'll mute it because he's like, nope, they pissed me off like 3 trades ago, so I'm done. So for me with him, I always have to start the conversation as a consultant. Like, hey man, what are you looking to do with your team? What makes sense for both of us? What's the win-win here? And so for me, where my franchise is right now, as well as how I like to play, I like to have a long-term strategy. When I started the league, in the first 3 years of it, I felt that at the startup draft, I'd given myself a 3-year window to go chase a championship. That window has now closed. I've stripped it down to the studs. I've looked at it as a business and been like, okay, what's an asset that's going to for sure go up in value? And so I went to everyone, was like, hey, you're a win now team. You're looking to go make a splash. You need to arm up and go try to make a title push. You know what you're not going to use? Your 2025 first. In fact, it's 2 years away. It was the cheapest asset I could find that I know is going to go up in value. And so I approached the sales that way. Hey, this benefits you. This benefits me. And so most people tend to take my calls. That being said, at times, I wish I was a little bit more villainous like Davis and really pressed on people's emotionally low moments.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's great. No, it's fantastic. It's fantastic because sometimes I do think Davis loves rubbing salt in the wound, not because he enjoys it, because he knows it makes you irrational. He did this to me. It's why Dylan's team is actually a playoff contender, no doubt, because Davis said he was going to tank last season, which he did most of the season. Then when he goes to play me, he had a great roster. He activates his starters. I had just traded for Justin Fields before he had started. I panicked, got angry, called Dylan and said, hey, give me Jared Goff and Ramondre Stevenson. I need to win this game. And I traded away Justin Fields.
And he still took an
It was
L.
terrible. It was terrible. But I'm the win-win guy. I like to give actual football takes that I believe will be true, not just now, but in years to come. I don't play the markets up and down. I want to plant my flag on a guy and see him develop. That's how I want to lead my franchise.
Yeah, Josh, as a real estate, he approaches Dynasty similarly to the way he approaches his day job in real estate. That's why he is going to sell you this pen. Like we're gonna have at various points throughout the week, throughout each episode. He is going to sell you on a player that you need to draft. We're calling that sell you this pen. In case you didn't notice, I'm obsessed. We are all obsessed with Wolf of Wall Street here on the Dynasty Exchange. Dylan, give me the scouting report because you've been quiet. But give me the scouting report on Davis and Josh because they ganged up on you along with me about you overthinking. Give me your scouting report on Davis and Josh.
Yeah, for Davis, I coined him. Sure, he's the value king, but he's also Dr. Mr. Evil. Like, he's the necessary evil, though. Like, he's a necessary evil you need, and he will do whatever it takes, manipulate, lie. He'll call someone, like you said, he'll text someone when he's on the phone with you. Am I wrong? Davis, you never lie.
Okay, no, hold on a second. There's a difference between a lie and a fabrication, and I truly believe that.
Literally the same thing.
That is the exact same thing. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Your Honor, I didn't lie. I just didn't tell the truth.
Here, the difference is that a lie, the intent is bad. There's a negative connotation to lie. Fabrication means I'm just utilizing maybe a mistruth to benefit myself. That's the difference.
Okay, fine. Not a liar. You're a manipulator. When it comes to accept that.
Wait, Dylan, before you speak on Josh, one time, y'all, I had to talk, and I did this. I didn't have a dog in this fight. I just did it because I thought it was right. I had to talk Dylan into doing a great deal with Davis, and I said to Dylan, if I were making this offer to you, would you do it? He's like, probably. That's how personal it gets between Dylan and Davis.
I've been honest with Davis. Have I not, Davis, said to you multiple times, there's going to be a tax on you, and I will not do any offer that I would typically probably do with someone else for the same price with you. I've been honest, and that's to me, it's notorious in our league. I call that the Davis tax, and that's what it is.
Yeah, he wears a black hat. Dylan,
Josh
yeah, and
is-
Josh, you guys have known each other basically your whole lives, right? You and
Fifth
Josh?
grade, man.
Yeah,
Fifth grade.
since fifth grade. So been through a lot. We kind of ran the circle of life together. We didn't like each other. We grew on each other. We're best friends, and now here we are. So yeah, I mean, I love Josh, but when it comes to dynasty and fantasy, we just don't see eye to eye on player values. You know,
No,
I
we
try to get
don't.
a deal done with this guy. But listen, I do owe credit to Josh for where I'm at as a franchise because last year, I'm going to say the trade. Last year, I had Justin Fields and Kenneth Walker, right? Superstars last year.
And Chase Claypool. I want to throw that in there
Oh
too.
yeah, and Chase, I was going to leave him out, but Chase Claypool as well. So I sent him a little deal. He called me. We talked back and forth. I sent him Justin Fields, Ken Walker, and Claypool for Dak Prescott, Christian McCaffrey, Ramondre Stevenson, and DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh my God.
Sent those young cats over and got that, and then what do you know? I was a start-sit decision away from being in the championship game last year. So let that be an example of Josh Walsh. Him and Davis, he let Davis's personal offense get to him and tried to. He wanted to beat him. That's what he wanted
I was
to
stirred
do.
up.
And then when he
I was
was
stirred up.
stirred up and made an emotional decision, but capitalized on it. But no, Josh. I mean, Josh has been the epitome of patience, and he advocates and stands and dies on the hill of 25 picks, although he cannot name a single 25 player. But that's aside the point. He's going to live and die on that hill. So, no, me and Josh we've had talks, but, I mean, we just don't see eye to eye all the time. But he's a guy of conviction, he's going to die on that hill. So, more power to him.
I would just add to that. I think we have different powers. Something I really respect about Dylan is he is so correct about what he sees on film with player talent. There are so many calls I've had where I'm like, who is Ramondre Stevenson? And that was like 3 years ago in the rookie draft. Like, who is Antonio Gibson? Like, who is Jacoby Myers? And Dylan, because he sees something in a player, if that light bulb clicks, he's going to go get that player. And so I don't trust my eyes that much. I trust my ability to study, look at team history, things like that. That's why where Dylan and I, we see Dynasty so differently is we just rely on different sources to help us make our decisions.
Yeah, and Josh is intellectual when it comes to it, so he thinks you call me an overthinker. That dude overthinks and overjustifies.
No, hey, that's a term of endearment because I'm the master overthinker. Honestly, guys, I mean, when I met y'all, I instantly took to all of you. It really it's nothing against the other members of the league. There's a lot of great guys in the league, but you guys just in the chat, over text, and on the phone. Obviously, Josh, you being the commissioner, first guy I met and shepherded the expansion process. But I'm like, there's something about these three dudes. Like, y'all dynamic as friends, as competitors. I was like, there's something special here. To say nothing of the fact that you fools were doing an owners only podcast just for the league. I'm like, well, let's just do this for real. Like, if you're gonna do a podcast in your spare time, you might as well do it on the Inflection network on iHeartRadio and the iHeartRadio app. So I guess what I would like to know from you guys, because what I wanted this to be, I'll tell you from my perspective, and then I'll get it from you guys. The rule of thumb, because I've done a lot of fantasy programming over the years. I mean, Numbers Never Lie was supposed to be a fantasy show on ESPN. I hosted Fantasy Football Now on Sunday mornings on ESPN. I currently host Fantasy Football pregame on Peacock alongside Matthew Berry, who I work with at ESPN. So I've done a lot of fantasy programming, and the rule of thumb typically is that people don't care about your league. And I don't think that that's necessarily true. I don't think people care about, the particular players on every roster in your league or maybe even your team. But I think people care about issues and scenarios that they can relate to. And when I met you guys, I knew I could relate to you guys. And what I think this podcast could be is not only because everybody's giving advice, everybody's got access to information and statistics. But I'm like, no, these are dudes and Davis, Dylan, and Josh that you want to hang out with. I want people to feel like I felt on that Amazon bus, Josh, in Seattle, that they're going to want to be in the yacht club as badly as I want to be in the yacht club. That's why, beyond talking about the news of the day or values for players and whatnot, we're going to take you below deck in just about every episode and take you inside the drama and the politics of the yacht club, because I think you will find it entertaining. Josh, what is your vision for the Dynasty Exchange?
Well, I think it's twofold. One, we want to make this a show that we would listen to that isn't anything else out there. So like, we're not going to try to sell you a draft kit because heck, we're doing our own research. We're buying them as well. We can do that. But I think the most valuable thing we can give the listeners if they want to be better players is we're going to teach you how to play the man and not the cards, because there is no league that I'm aware of like the Yacht Club where every owner is dialed in. Every owner is going to have a say, and each owner is unique in how to get a deal done. And you just watching us do that, you journeying with us as we each try a different method to bring our team success is going to give you real-time takeaway on how you should lead your franchise, because every league has a type or person like me who's like, well, the numbers say this. Every league has a person that trusts what they see on the field, maybe not nearly as good as Dylan. And then every league might have a Davis who's just super committed, the first to the rule change, always reading the textbook. And you get to follow us and figure out how not only you want to be better in your league, but how you would try to beat us. And I think that we're not the only characters in our league. I'm excited to tell you about some of the other guys and the antics that we get up to, because it brings me such joy just being a part of it. So, Davis, are there any, for you, we've talked about this show at length. We've debated what it should be like. What are you hoping to bring to the table? And not just as a listener of other fantasy podcasts and a fan of the genre as a whole, but what do you as the value king think you're going to bring to the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us 3 and 4, with Mike included, I just want you guys to see joy, like that there are 4 dudes that are obsessed with fantasy football, and for like you to see that dynamic and to see all the drama that goes into it, because in all the drama, in all of the, business negotiations and the values and the deep dive, you're going to get value that's going to help inform some decisions that you're going to need to make in like your own leagues. Right. But the main goal of this is for, like, we are just people that are obsessed with Dynasty football. It's not 10 months out of the year. It's not 11 months. It's 12 months out of the year. We are on the phone, texting. We are passionate. And I mean, this is just a testament to, like, if you're passionate about something and you love it, you never know what can happen. And so, like, that's just kind of sharing this story and seeing how, like, life works, and the fact that Josh and Mike happen to be in a car together. And now we have a league that is the greatest league in the world that expanded to that. And now we have this podcast where we're hoping to make this the best Dynasty podcast that you get, because you're not just getting takes, you're not just getting values, but you are getting context into deals. You are getting like relationships being broken and built. And man, it's just there is a lot of value that you're going to get from this podcast because you have 4 real dudes.
Yeah, I'll add to that real quick. I think one of the biggest things, and all 3 of us have talked about this, and Mike, you've been on this, is we want to provide you value and context. And as much as we mess with each other and dog each other, like Josh, we wouldn't be here if Josh hadn't commissioned the league the way that he's commissioned the league. Mike wouldn't be interested if he didn't commission the league the way that he commissioned the league. And that's one of his strong suits, is building strong leagues. And Davis with the value segment and myself with the prospects. I think we just add so many different flavors to this that you're going to be able to get value in so many different directions. And I think that's what this show really will provide for you guys.
I think it's going to be insightful. I think it's going to be informative. But most of all, I think it's going to be engaging and entertaining. I in my career, I feel like the best partnerships, the best shows are built on pre-existing relationships. And that's not to say that you can't take two people or 2 or more people and put them together and they can develop chemistry. But I don't think there's any substitute for people who have worked together or been friends since the 5th grade or in a fantasy league together, who would do this and do this in their free time. I mean, it's honestly like, shout out to Dylan, because Dylan, actually all of y'all, and maybe it's because I'm older than you guys and I've been married 18 years now. So I don't know, because like, Davis, how long you been married?
Year and a half.
Dylan?
5 years next month.
5 years. And Josh, how long you been married?
5 years. Yeah.
5 years. Just became a baby. You just became a father. Excuse me. You did not become a baby. That would be impossible. You became a father. No. But
over here.
But I will give y'all credit. You guys will say, "Hey, Mike, I got to run. It's date night," says Dylan. David's like, "Hey, the wife is calling me." Josh is like, "Hey, man, I got to go be daddy." My wife is over. I'll be in the bed at night. My wife is like, "Will you please get off the phone so I can go to sleep?"
Fun story. Hold on a second. A funny story to that. I remember, I think we spoke maybe 3 times in one day. And then I come to find out later in the day, like, Mike, it's your wedding anniversary.
Bro, it's real.
Mike,
It's so real.
I feel terrible. He's like, man, I would not have picked up the phone if I didn't want to answer it. I was
it's
like,
not
hey,
your fault. I mean, I can multitask. It's like,
my bad.
Brutal.
I got to trade. Well, this is another league, but I got to trade done at a wedding, and it's something about getting trades done in interesting places and circumstances that make you feel really good. So I don't know if we got a deal done on my anniversary or not, but I had no problem talking about it. It was still my anniversary. I still had a good day. Why can't? Oh, we did get a deal done, but it was in another league. But that's okay. We're not going to talk about the other league. But we got a deal done, so I appreciate that. Well, Josh, you about to say something? Walsh?
No, it's just a great comment. It's like, that's what makes fantasy great. And like, it's for our listeners, like, you get to do this year round. There's no other format in fantasy where you're doing this year round, where you're involved in people's lives. And so it's hilarious. But I agree with Davis. I've gotten some weird calls at weird times from Mike. I'm like, oh, you're serious. Cause me and Dylan and Davis would do that all the time. But for you to be that committed was always surprising.
I get calls from Mike at like midnight, and I'm on the West Coast.
He's on the East Coast.
I'm like,
You don't go to bed?
For sure.
You don't take yourself to bed.
I'm like, it's Wednesday, bro. What are you?
Everybody should understand that. Davis, Dylan, and Josh are all on Pacific time. I'm on Eastern time, and I'll hit Dylan on Davis or Joshua. You up? I hit him with a you up text in a second to figure out a trade. But I got so much excitement and enthusiasm. Because I really love you guys as people, as friends. We become fast friends. Who says you can't make friends at 44 years old? Like, we become fast friends and competitors. And the Yacht Club is one of the best things. I don't know what that says about me. Maybe this is the degenerate you're talking about. This is one of the best things to happen to me in a long time. Joining the Yacht Club, but I really think this podcast could be special. I think it could be a combination of insight, information, but also entertainment, authenticity, and relatability. And I think the people who are going to relate to us are the hardcore people like us that do not put down sleeper, that do not put down keep trade cut, that's constantly thinking about how to improve their teams. And I think a lot of people are going to feel the way I felt about you guys, which is like, you know what? I could be friends with those dudes. So that's going to do it for this pilot episode. Again, follow us on all of our social media channels. The Dynasty Exchange is the name of this show. It's the name of our social media handles as well. Follow Davis Noemi, Dylan Egloff, and Josh Walsh on Twitter. Davis is the Value King. Dylan is going to be bringing his Debbie deep dive to the table, and Josh is going to sell you this pen, convince you why you need to acquire players. And we got a whole bunch of other fun segments planned. It's just going to be a great season, and I'm really excited about this podcast. So, guys, on behalf of the Inflection Network, thank y'all for believing in us and for doing this. And let's have a fun ride.